Welcome back to Always Autumn, episode number 3, where we are discovering our purpose and living in overflow. I'm so excited that you're with me today. I can't wait to dive into our topic, and it's actually one that I think is really going to help you. So get your notepads out and take some notes either on your phone or somewhere so that you can grow deeper in your walk with the Lord and walk fully in the purpose that He created you for. Today we're going to be talking about two things. We're going to be talking about comparison and competition. And women, if you have never experienced a moment in your life where you feel like you're comparing yourself to someone else, you're probably in denial, because I think a part of our lives, there's a little bit of us that is comparing ourselves or maybe feeling like we're in competition. But today I want to talk to you about how to get out of those traps, how to shift your mindset, because a lot of times it's just making a simple shift in your mind so that you can come up higher and stop comparing ourselves or stop feeling like we're in competition. Can I tell you that there's something special on your voice? There's a uniqueness that's in you that's not in anyone else. I could be saying the same thing as someone else on another podcast, but something that I carry is completely different from what they carry. And the same is true for you. There's something on your life that's different from anyone else. You know how I know that? Is because God created us all. He created us with intentionality, with purpose. And so I want to encourage you today, if comparison has got you feeling low, today is going to be your day, because all of that is going to begin to fall off of you, and you're going to be able to be confident in who you are, in the calling that's on your life. And so how can comparison be a trap? I was thinking about that the other day when I was driving. I don't know if you do that very often, but sometimes when I'm in my car, I just let my mind kind of think about things. And I was thinking about how it can be a trap, because looking where someone else is in their life, or looking at what they have or what they've accomplished, can really make you feel like, wow, why haven't I accomplished those things yet? Why hasn't this situation happened to me yet? You know, you can begin to look and compare your life to someone else's when your season might just look different. And so I heard this phrase over the weekend, and I thought it was so powerful. I'm going to read it to you. It says this: my grass is green. That's all I'm concerned about. I don't know if yours is greener, and I don't care. My grass is the only one that I'm looking at. And I screenshotted it because I saw it, and I thought, that is so good. My grass is green. And in fact, that morning I woke up and I just looked around my home and I began to thank God. Thank you for these floors. Thank you for the ceiling fan. Thank you for the bedding on my bed. Thank you for the beautiful windows where the sunshine comes in. And I'm telling you, if you will start to look at the things that are going on in your life that are good, and you begin to thank God for them, I'll tell you what it will do to comparison. It'll make it fly right out of your life. For me, that just shifted something for me. If I began to look at the things that God has blessed me with, get out of everyone else's lane, quit looking over in someone else's yard. In fact, this is a funny story. When we built our home has a lake in front of it, and you can walk around the lake, and all the houses kind of surround the lake. Well, when we built our home, we didn't have grass there yet. I remember it was just red clay. And so every time someone would come into the house, they would track in this red clay. I remember walking around our neighborhood, and I was looking at different yards, and I was looking at some yards, were really lush and green, and some looked like they hadn't been watered in a while. Whenever I went to pick out my grass, I'm thinking, I'm looking for the greenest grass, the grass that, that grass that looks like a golf course. That's the kind of grass that I wanted. So literally I was comparing yards, and basically I wanted to find out what kind of yard I wanted compared to everyone else. But can I tell you, you can pick out the grass that you want. You can decide, I don't like this one, but the grass is green where you plant it and you water it and you grow it. And so that's what I decided. The grass really wasn't that much different, just someone was taking care of theirs a little bit more. And so when we laid our grass out, we decided we're going to get that fertilizer. We're going to get that sprinkler system. Why? Because we want to care for what we've been given. And can I tell you today, if you'll start caring for what you've been given, things will change. Things will change in your life. Maybe you're looking for something outside of yourself to make you happy. And can I tell you that success in life begins when you start taking personal responsibility for what God has entrusted you with. And I want you to think about that today. What has God entrusted me with that I need to take better care of? For some of you, that may be your health. You're looking at everyone else and you're comparing what they look like, what clothes they're wearing, what vacations or whatever they're going on. And can I tell you, you can go on all those vacations and still feel empty inside. It starts with doing an internal work with God. I'm going to take care of what you've given me. And so I'll give you just a simple tip. You don't have to transform your whole life in one day, but just start drinking water. I know that seems like a simple thing, but it doesn't cost you anything. Start drinking about 3 or 4 bottles of water every single day. That will make such a difference in your body. It'll make a difference in your mind. That's just a simple tip that'll start changing some things in your own personal life. When I think about that phrase, I'm not concerned about anyone else's grass. And I think a lot of our mental space, a lot of our mind is spent on what other people are doing. And it can be a trap. That comparison, that competition, start thinking about what you're doing. Or what you're doing excellent work. Think about Joseph in the Bible. He went through all kinds of hardships. His brothers betrayed him. He ended up coming out of that betrayal. Then he ended up in prison for something that he didn't even do. And he just kept excelling wherever he was put. If he was put in a pit, if he was put in the prison, or even in the palace, he just excelled in his work. You know what he was doing? He was taking care of his own grass. He wasn't looking at what everybody else was doing. Oh wait, what are my brothers doing that actually sold me? What are my brothers doing that actually put me in a pit? No. Joseph looked at what God had given him and he excelled in it. He did excellent work. And so I think about that. If we stop caring about what everyone else is doing and start tending to what God has given us, like even take an inventory of your home. I noticed this a couple weeks ago. I have not been taking care of the laundry at home. Every time we go to take a shower, we got to go to the washer or the dryer and pull out a towel. You know what? That just creates a little bit of disorder in my home. Just think about some things that may be out of order in your life. Some of you may be believing for a new car, but look at the car that you're driving right now. Are you taking care of it? Even if you just need to get all the junk out of it, maybe give it a good vacuum, run it through the car wash. Do some things today that can take care of what you've been given, what you've been assigned to do. And so this is this phrase that I wrote down: fall in love with what God has created you for. If you start just getting so excited, so focused on the thing that God has called you to, I'm telling you, all the comparison and the competition, you wouldn't even have a trace of that in your life anymore. But most people aren't focused on their calling, their purpose. And we've been talking a lot about that on the podcast. And so we've been talking about pursuing God and Him showing you things about yourself. Do you know that I never knew that there was a writer on the inside of me? I never knew that there was a public speaker on the inside of me. But as I spent time with God, I discovered that. And I don't compare myself with a lot of the other public speakers. I don't compare myself with other podcasters. Hey, it's only my 3rd episode. I'm just being faithful, putting my head down and doing what God's called me to do. I'm just looking at the grass that I've been given to tend to. And I'm telling you, if you will do that, take an inventory in any area where there's been wrong things planted. Maybe like you're not good enough. Maybe like there's always going to be somebody with something better than you. Maybe if those seeds have gotten in your heart, I want you to decide today, I'm going to uproot those things. That my destiny is too important to compare it to someone else's. And so one way that I do that, I talked a little bit about it, was being grateful for what I do have. Gratitude will shift you out of comparison quicker than anything else. In fact, every morning, this is what I do. I have a little gratitude journal beside my bed, and right before I read my Bible, I start my day out with being thankful, and I write down 5 things that I'm thankful for. And I'll tell you, at first it was kind of hard, like what am I thankful for? But the way that I determine this is, what if I woke up tomorrow and I only had the things that I was thankful for the day before? And when I think about that, I'm like, wow, that's a harsh reality. If I am only receiving what I was thankful for yesterday, what all could I say that I'm thankful for? I started down the list. I'm thankful for the good coffee. I'm thankful for my family. I'm thankful for, and all these things begin to roll out of my mind of what I was thankful for. And I'm telling you, comparison will leave. I mean, it's the fastest way, I feel like, to get out of that trap. It's an immediate way to freedom. And so decide today. You can even use the little technique that I use, just start saying you're thankful. Let it come out of your mouth, especially when you're feeling insecure, when you're feeling like you're not enough, when you're comparing. At that moment, recognize it and decide, I'm going to be thankful. And it will make such a difference. My family is a little bit competitive. I'm just going to tell you, I'm probably the least competitive one in the whole bunch. But one of my daughters, I used to say that even eating was a competition for her. She wanted to see if she could get done faster than her sister. Being first, to get in the car, or, there's just a little bit of competition in my family. But when I think about our calling and living in overflow, you don't have to compete for something that's already yours. A little thing that I wrote down is, no one can take what God has for you, so choose not to compete. Choose not to live in competition. If God has it for you, no one can take it from you. You're not in competition with anyone but yourself. So decide you're not going to let regret, you're not going to let insecurity, you're not even going to let fear keep you from going after what God has said is yours. And if you will stay faithful in the things that God has promised you, before long, you're going to see that promotion. You're going to see God do some things in your life that you only prayed for. And so the only race that you're responsible for is the one that's set before you. And so quit running in everybody else's lane. Quit weaving over here trying to rescue and save your friends. Quit weaving over here and trying to interrupt family situations that you're not called to take care of. Your responsibility may just be for prayer and for wisdom. If they ask you for wisdom, and stay in the place of prayer, and that will keep you in the right race. Some of you, I feel like you're still at the starting block. I feel like I've been there for a period of time where I feel like I'm just at the starting block, but I'm telling you, the gun has already been shot. It's time to run. It's time for you to get going. If you don't start now, what age are you going to start? I think about that often with me. Like, okay, even with this podcast, I know that I'm supposed to have one. What age am I actually going to step up and do it? It's now. Forget about the future. The future's got plenty of things for me to do, but now is the time for me to step into my calling. And I want to tell you today, now is the time for you to step into your calling. Quit waiting for validation from someone else. Quit comparing yourself to anyone or competing with anyone, and say yes to what God has called you to do. Say yes to the purpose that's on your life. You're worthy of it. God saw that you were worthy enough that He assigned it to you. And so the only race that you're responsible for is the one that's set before you. And this is a scripture that comes from in Hebrews 12 and verse 2. Run your race with perseverance, the race marked out for you, fixing your eyes on Jesus. And so know this, your race is unique. Don't make it look like everyone else's. Be unique in the race that God has called you to run. I think about my life and my husband's life. We've encountered criticism. And I don't know if you've ever had a critic in your life, or someone, who felt it was okay to talk about you or say things about what you're doing. Can I tell you, if I listened to every critic, I would never do anything. If I listened to every complainer or every person who had something negative to say about me, I would never do anything for God. Instead, I chose, like this verse says, fix my eyes on Jesus. He's the one that I'm going to have to give an account for my life. He's the one that I'm going to have to stand before and say, okay, you did this or you did that, or you were so involved in other people's opinions that you were afraid. And so today, remember that your race is unique. The other thing is perseverance. I like that part of that scripture. And perseverance means this, that you're consistent. And I'm going to tell you guys, consistency has been something that I really have to work on. Sometimes I'm a really good starter, but finishing is something that I really have to work on. And I don't know if you've ever been that way before, but if you will decide that you're going to be consistent, and you might wonder, what can I be consistent in? How about your morning routine? Do you have a wake-up time that you get up every single morning? Do you have a prayer time? Do you have a time time where you're in God's Word and you're expressing gratitude? Do you have a time every day, that you're listening to faith, that you're listening to encouragement? Those are some things that you can decide that you're going to be consistent in, that you're not going to allow the distractions of life, that you're not going to allow how your feelings are. This is what I used to do. I used to decide how I felt that day. If I was going to get up early, what time I went to bed the night before, what I had the next day, I would let my feelings decide. And can I tell you, I was like a wave, tossed here and there. I was never consistent. And I'm telling you, that lack of consistency in my life, you know what it did? It made me not believe in myself. When I started to persevere and be consistent, have a daily wake up time, a time when that I'm spending with God, it changed everything for me. It actually helped my self-esteem so much just by having some consistent things in my life. So if you struggled with a low self-esteem, if you struggled with being consistent with things, decide today, I'm going to move the needle just 1%. I don't have to do 10 things right, but I'm going to do one thing right for a whole week, and I'm going to see how that feels. And I'm telling you, it's going to feel so good. So you should start doing it today. The other thing is your gaze matters. I feel like so often, I talked about being in the wrong lane, or being in someone else's yard, comparing yourself, competing with other people, but your gaze matters. And I feel like in a world where social media, influencing, and there's so many things that are out there that try to take our gaze. And just remember that your gaze needs to be fixed on Jesus, just like the scripture says. Fixing our eyes on Jesus, because he's the one who authored us and who's going to be the finisher of our faith. And so knowing that, a runner, whenever you run, if you look down or if you look to the side, before very long, you're going to be in someone else's lane. And so runners look ahead. They have a starting point and they're looking at it. They look ahead. And can I tell you, you need to be looking ahead to your future. If you're still looking at your past, you're probably discouraged. For me, a lot of times I would look at my past and I started out doing this, or, this happened, whenever I was this age, or whatever. I was looking at all the things behind me. If you do that for very long, you're going to fall, you're going to trip, you're going to stumble over some things, but fix your eyes ahead. Fix them forward. There are so many good things for your future. Some of you haven't even started living yet. You're still wandering around situations. You're still moving through different patterns of your life, but just stop it. You have the power to stop it. Before I thought I was waiting on someone to come in and rearrange things in my life, when I'm telling you, the power's in you. You have to decide, I'm going to stand up today. I'm going to start doing it today. I'm going to start looking forward, staying in my lane, and going after the things that I know that are ahead of me, that God has called me to. And so runners look forward. Runners don't look down. That's one of the biggest signs of defeat. I don't know if you knew that or not, but a lowered head, someone who's looking down, that is a defeated mind. But you need to hold your head up today. Jesus chose you. In fact, he said, I got plans for you, plans that you could have never even dreamed about. Those are the things that I've got ahead of you. I think about a story in the Bible of Peter. All of Jesus's disciples were in this boat and a storm came up. And I don't know about you, but if you've ever been through a storm, it can be a little uncertain. Right? Especially if you're with a group of people who are also uncertain. In fact, I think they thought that their boat was going to flip. They thought that they were going to drown. There they were in the storm. The boat is rocking. The waves are really big. And then all of a sudden they see Jesus walking on the very thing that they were afraid of. Jesus walks up and he looks at Peter and he says, come to me. And Peter had his gaze on Jesus. He had his eyes on Jesus. And he began to walk on the thing that he feared. He began to step out. And that's what I feel like this season is for you, a season to step out and keep your eyes on Jesus. The only time that Peter began to go underneath that water is when he started looking at the waves. And so today, I hope you'll take a moment and decide, I'm going to stop looking at the distractions. I'm going to stop comparing myself and competing with other people, and I'm going to look ahead. My grass is green. That's all I'm concerned about. I don't know if you're yours is greener or not, and I don't care, because my grass is the only one that I'm looking at. My race is the only one I'm concerned about. And hopefully you're going to take some of these tools today and make some impact in the world. Can I tell you, there are people waiting on you to step into your assignment. There are people who are waiting on you to say yes to the things that God has placed on your life. And so today, I want to call you higher to discover your purpose and live in overflow.